So Jamaicans are really upset right now over what has been happening with electricity bills. I have 3 questions and 3 takeaways from everything that's been happening. I'm Dionne Jackson. Thank you so much for joining me. Stay tuned. So for the past week, social media has been full of Jamaicans posting. They've been outraged over the light bills they've been getting, and they've been calling for some kind of action. And if you've got a light bill that you think is outrageously high, tell us in the comments below, okay? And tell me what you're thinking about all of this. Now, question number 1, do we need an inquiry into JPS billing? Let's look at what's been happening and what some people have been posting in terms of their light bills. So Christopher Henry, for instance, posted his bill showing an increase from about 37,000 to about 53,000. Kenyatta Powell also took to social media with his outrage, and he showed that his bill nearly doubled from about $6,500 to almost $12,000. So JPS responded and they said, look, there are 2 main factors responsible for what we've been seeing on their light bills. One is the increase in the fuel charge. That's the main issue, they said, and they also said there is an exchange rate issue. So this was their explanation. They said the recent increase is primarily due to a higher fuel charge and to a much lesser extent a higher billing exchange rate. They said because of Hurricane Beryl that they had to switch from using LNG, liquefied natural gas, to using the significantly more expensive fuel automotive diesel oil. And they say that's responsible for the higher bills we've been seeing. There are 2 main problems though with the explanation from JPS. One is that the Minister of Finance then took to social media as well, and he published letters between himself and JPS. JPS had asked for a tax waiver because of the higher costs, and the ministry agreed with the tax waiver. Now, granted, even with the waiver on taxes, if the fuel itself costs more, then you're going to see some kind of increase. But the question is, how much should that increase have been? How long was it that JPS was actually using this higher fuel for? They said in their statement they had to use automotive diesel oil to generate electricity for some days. So another problem was that the Minister of Finance in his post seemed to be suggesting that there was something not quite right with JPS's explanation. This is what the minister said. He said, consistent with the posture and advocacy of the Energy Minister Darrell Vaz, I urge the JPS to focus on the technical matters under their control and to urgently restore normalcy to the Jamaican consumer. He said the government of Jamaica, that's JOJ, will not give distortionary or diversionary tactics the space to prevail. So no way, not true. And then another big problem with JPS's explanation is that in some cases, people who didn't have light for extended periods of time were also saying they got these high bills. So the Gleaner reported, for instance, on a community center that had light for 2 days in the billing period, which is about 30 days, and yet their light bill was about $74,000. So key takeaway number 1, yes, we do need some kind of inquiry, but I think we need an open and transparent one that people can follow along with and understand. The OUR is the independent regulator, right? And according to the OUR Act, that's the Office of Utilities Regulation. So according to the OUR Act, the OUR does have the power to carry out investigations on its own initiative or on the request of any person. And the OUR has said it's investigating, but I think people need to feel heard, and they also need to feel that they have some kind of input and insight into the investigative process at this stage, given how upset people are and given what seems to be a widespread problem. So whether it's an OUR investigation or some other investigation, I think this needs to be a public inquiry. I think JPS officials need to be asked questions and answer questions in public, streamed live over the internet so people can watch and see. I think this would be good for everybody concerned. I think customers would feel that, okay, they actually in on the investigation. They're actually getting to hear the actual answers of JPS. And I think it would be good for JPS as well, because now you get to speak directly to your customers and to explain your position, because they say in some of the cases people not reading their bills wrong. They say in some cases people who didn't pay their bill from the month before are now seeing 2 months worth of bill and complaining about high bills, and that's not the situation. Well, we know that's not the case in all cases, but I think this kind of public explanation and public inquiry is something that's necessary. Question number 2. Did the regulator, the Office of Utilities Regulation, fall down on the job? Again, looking at the Act, the OUR can give directions to any licensee, in this case a JPS, to ensure that the needs of consumers are being met and to ensure that the company is operating efficiently, to protect the health and well-being of the public, to protect the environment, and to make sure that consumers have an economical and reliable service. So after people started cussing about the high bills, the OUR did send out a statement pretty quickly to say it was investigating. And then on Friday, now about 5 days later, it issued another statement to say that they had told the JPS to reduce some customers' bills in the next billing period and to reissue the bills which had been sent out in August with zero consumptions that didn't show a zero balance. So look, I think it's completely reasonable that the regulator just doesn't barge in from the get-go and start making orders without any kind of evidence and investigation. That would not be reasonable. I also, though, don't think these statements go quite far enough on these initial orders, because the OUR refers to what it called the scale and extensiveness of the JPS bill increase for August, showing it wasn't just 1 or 2 or 3 miserable people making up noise with no basis, right? And the OUR also said it had told JPS in 2021 that it would view any average increase in overall rates as a rate shock, and that's something that should be avoided. Now, obviously, it's going to cause problems. You can't say to all customers, don't pay your bill, stop paying your bill, because the JPS does have a company to run, it has a service to provide, it has employees to pay. That would be unreasonable, again, without any basis or without any evidence. But again, I don't see how the current situation in which some people have seen these huge increases, I don't see how the current situation is entirely fair to them. So this is what the OUR has said. They said if your bill is higher than 5% higher, more than 5% higher than last month, then you need to complain to the JPS. If you don't get any joy from the JPS, right, or if they tell you, look, you have to pay or your light got cut off, then you should come to the OUR. But again, what is going to happen? Most of us are going to pay our light bill, right? Because who is going to not pay and risk having your light cut off while an investigation is going on? You're not going to do that. Come on. So again, I know you have to have a process. You have to be fair to all concerned. You have to be fair to the JPS. But this doesn't feel to me as if it's being fair to the people who have these huge increases. And I'm wondering if there couldn't have been some kind of interim solution or interim order, maybe saying if your bill is, say, 20 or 30% higher than it was last month, maybe that you pay last month's figure while you lodge your complaint and the investigation goes on. Obviously, I'm throwing out ideas here, but again, I just think that we need some kind of better solution for the people who are facing these huge increases. Question number 3. Does the minister need to be given additional power to intervene? Now, Energy Minister Daryl Vaz has been trying fire. He's been cussing off the JPS. He's been cussing off the OUR. He wrote the JPS raising concerns about the billing. He wrote to the OUR, the regulator, saying he was concerned about the way in which they were regulating and overseeing the JPS on this. And one of the things he said is that he feels that as a minister, he should have more power. He says right now he's all bark and no bite, and he wants the system to be changed so that he, the minister, has the power to intervene in situations like this after, say, a natural disaster. So here's the thing. Hold on. Let's not be hasty here. Now, the license does give the minister an opportunity to step in exceptional circumstances. Say if the system has been down or a substantial part of the system is down for 48 hours without some kind of intervening event like a natural disaster. Clearly, we had a natural disaster here, so I don't see this as a situation in which the minister would be able to step in. And even if he steps in, what am I going to do? Am I going to run JPS? I don't see that happening. But at the same time, remember, we set up an independent regulator for a reason. The reason is to avoid political interference. And we have to be very careful about changing systems like that because we happen to like a particular minister, or we happen to like how the minister make noise and go on bad and speak up for consumers, right? Because you're talking about changing not just for an individual, but for all the individuals after that. In other words, enabling political intervention or interference for every energy minister, this energy minister, and any energy minister after that. And we've already seen the difficulty that political interference can cause in all kinds of areas in Jamaican society and Jamaican governance. So no, key takeaway, I do not think that that is the way we should go. I do think, as I said, we need a public inquiry here that people can watch and follow. I think we need to look at how the OUR responded as well. Do we think that, they didn't do enough or they didn't act strongly enough? What I don't think we need to do is enable political intervention or political interference. So what happens now? Boy, we have to go and watch it, all right? And we certainly will continue to on this channel as well. Have to leave it there for today. Thank you so much for joining me courtside. I'm Dionne. I'll see you next time.